In 2020, Illinois voters had a choice. Residents of the prairie state were given the chance to decide if they wanted a marginal income tax where people who make more money are taxed at higher rates, or a flat tax rate where everyone gets taxed the same. I know, this sounds like the most boring topic in the world, but what started as a campaign promise about fiscal policy turned into a no-holds-barred fight, complete with allegations of corruption, dark money groups, and 2 billionaires going to war over the state. In the progressive tax corner, you have sitting Governor J.B. Pritzker. Pritzker is an heir to a $29 billion pile of money built on steel and Hyatt hotels. In 2018, he spent $171 million of his own money on his campaign to become governor. He's a relatively progressive Democrat and isn't afraid to put his money where his mouth is. He's like an uncle who buys expensive Christmas presents if the presents are legalizing marijuana and criminal justice reform. In the lead up to 2020, Pritzker put more than $58 million into Vote Yes for Fairness, a campaign group focused on this issue, and he also helped bankroll Think Big Illinois, a dark money group which put out ads pushing for the progressive income tax. Now, being a dark money group doesn't mean they're evil. I'm not trying to say anything like that or accuse them of anything. It just means that because of their tax status, they don't have to report their donors. Anyone could give them money and they wouldn't have to say. Joining Pritzker is Vote Yes for Fair Tax, a separate campaign organization made up of a mixture of labor unions and progressive activist groups. He also had the support from the top Democrats in Illinois, including House Speaker Michael Madigan. If that name sounds familiar, it's because you may have seen headlines recently about him. He was just indicted on 22 counts of bribery and racketeering, charges which he denies. But his reputation is going to become relevant. In the anti-tax corner is Ken Griffin. As far as billionaires go, this guy is about as far from Pritzker as you can get. He came from a well-off family, but he was never Pritzker rich. He made his money trading stocks, eventually founding Citadel, a multinational hedge fund. In 2022, his company managed $46 billion in assets. That's about one Mackenzie Scott or a little over half a Zuckerberg. Griffin funded the coalition to stop the proposed tax hike, with just shy of $54 million in donations. He was joined by a few other billionaires, plus another dark money group called the Coalition for Jobs, Growth, and Prosperity. That group is run by the guy who used to lobby politicians on behalf of manufacturing companies. I don't mean to say that this whole campaign was actually a pissing match between two guys, but when you look at the numbers, it kind of was. Of the $121 million raised by the three biggest campaign groups, 92 cents of every dollar came from either Pritzker or Griffin. So what did they pay for? Get ready for the fun part. If you were around Illinois in 2019 or 2020, you probably saw stuff like this.
Tax breaks by having the toilets ripped out, claiming the home was uninhabitable.
That's not fair. That's fraudulent, maybe even criminal.
97% of Illinoisans will get a tax cut, including seniors like me.
Vote no on the tax hike amendment.
It turns out tens of $1 million buys a lot of airtime. The campaign spent something like $82 million just on ads. These ads went everywhere. Social media, radio, TV, streaming sites, YouTube, you name it. If there was an audience, they probably put an ad there. The people pushing for a progressive income tax relied on messaging about how the amendment would be more fair, and liked to point out that lots of other states and the federal government used the same system, or at least used similar systems. What's more is that they had a secret weapon, a sitting governor. In Illinois, the governor has to give a big speech every year outlining their budget proposal, essentially how they want to spend the state's money. In 2020, Pritzker's official budget included a progressive income tax. Here is a page from his official budget on the state's official website outlining the progressive income tax that voters hadn't voted on yet. Robert Denton, Judith Trent, and Robert Friedenberg are political scientists and experts in how campaigns work. They say that using your office during a campaign is one of the most effective things you can do if you're an incumbent. In their words, "We place our faith and trust in the hands of our leaders because they project an image that seduces us into participating in the comforting illusion that they can guide us through whatever possible troubles the future might present. Moreover, their position provides automatic legitimacy." So, in addition to $39 million of advertising, Pritzker effectively turned the state of Illinois into his own campaign surrogate. On the other side of the issue, the crew that wanted to keep Illinois' flat tax had one big theme: do not trust politicians.
They won't say how much you'll pay. A blank check for Springfield. Pritzker and Madigan want you to trust them to do the right thing. But they broke their promise before, and they'll do it again if we trust them again. Not this time.
For better or worse, trust came up a lot in the campaign. In the summer before the election, after years of rumors, several high-level political fixers and staffers associated with House Speaker Michael Madigan were charged with crimes related to a decade-long bribery scheme involving the state's largest utility company. They ran attack ad after attack ad after attack ad, relying on the fact that this kind of advertisement is memorable and, honestly, effective. There's just one problem. A lot of the ads that went out during this campaign were just wrong, like factually incorrect. An opposition group claimed that there would be a jobs tax. This was just never on the table. Griffin's group claimed the amendment would mean higher taxes on small business owners, but an independent analysis found most small businesses just wouldn't be affected. After Griffin's group put out ads saying the amendment posed a threat to retirement income, AARP Illinois, a group that represents the interests of people over 55 specifically, said that these were just misinformation and scare tactics. I found more examples of misleading claims and outright lies from the people opposed to this progressive income tax. But to be fair, Pritzker and his camp played dirty too. After Pritzker's group claimed that almost every state that taxes income charges wealthy people more, the Chicago Sun-Times found, well, I'll let them say it.
That isn't even close to accurate.
Sources for all of this are in the description, by the way. Personally, I think it's fair to say that lying during a campaign is a bad thing. Researchers have found that deception and negative ads are tied to lower voter turnout and lower trust in government, no matter what party rules. But I can't deny that, at least here, it worked. Come election day, voters rejected the amendment, and not by a particularly close margin. Illinois stuck to its flat tax. This was a big win for conservatives in a pretty blue state. In the Postmortem, people started to point fingers. One of the guys that ran Pritzker's campaign for governor, and who continues to run Pritzker's dark money group, Think Big Illinois, said the pandemic was a big part of this. We weren't having door-to-door conversations with the voters as you typically could have. We were trying to carry them with mail and television. Basically, he's saying that running a ballot initiative is hard. It is an uphill battle to pass something in a state like Illinois, and they were at a disadvantage because of the pandemic. But that wasn't the only factor. House Speaker Michael Madigan was the subject of a lot of those attack ads, despite not being all that involved with the campaign. It was Pritzker's idea, and the formal proposal came from Don Harmon, a state senator who wasn't all that close to Michael Madigan. But Madigan was neck deep in a corruption scandal, and he was an easy symbol of everything wrong with Illinois politics. In the words of Ray Long, who literally wrote the book on Michael Madigan, when the Pritzker amendment fell short, he and other leading Democrats looked around for a common theme among their losses, and someone else to blame. And they turned on Madigan. The guy was in power for something like 40 years, and this was a big hit to the Democratic Party. They needed someone to blame, and he fit the bill. So what does all of this about a campaign from 2 years ago mean for today? There are a lot of things to say about the progressive income tax campaign, and smarter people than me have said them, but my takeaway is this. The fair tax campaign was the first head-on battle between Ken Griffin and J.B. Pritzker. They both proved they were willing to outspend anyone in the history of Illinois. They also set down the ground rules for what's acceptable in their world, and it turns out truth is not a sticking point for them. Now, the two are gearing up to fight over who will be governor in 2022. Pritzker has already given $125 million to his campaign. Griffin said he's going to spend something like $300 million on elections this cycle. Griffin has proven himself to be able to beat Pritzker and already has a slate of Republican candidates ready to take on the Democratic Party. Nothing is set in stone yet, but this campaign, a campaign over tax policy, may have set the tone for the future of Illinois politics. My name is Andrew Adams. I'm a reporter in Illinois and I cover state politics, elections, and government. Right now, I'm writing for the State Journal-Register in Springfield, covering state agencies and the legislature. If you'd like to know more about me or my work, check out the links in the description. If you'd like to know more about state politics, I highly recommend the book, The House That Madigan Built, by Ray Long. I'm currently reading it. It is an amazing book. It's coming out soon, and I cannot recommend it enough.